Hello again, this is Noah and John, and we are from UrbanDigs. We're talking Manhattan, and we are at Fox Residential here today, Johnny.
We are. We have
Barbara
a veteran
Fox.
who needs no introduction, Barbara Fox.
Barbara
Thank you.
Fox. Everyone in the industry knows Barbara Fox.
It's true.
And today they're going to get the insights in Barbara Fox's mind.
Yes, it's going to be a good conversation, so
Yes.
let's jump
We should
into
title
it.
this Inside Barbara's Mind.
Yes.
Getting in Barbara's head.
That's
There we go.
scary.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We're going to extract some good stuff. I hope you got some good stories for us.
I don't know. We'll see.
So anyway, the people listening to this podcast are mostly real estate agents, and they want to know what's going on in the market.
Right.
And you have a really unique view. You're a veteran in this market. You've seen it all. You got a number of deals under your belt, total production. But you're also the owner of this firm,
Right.
So Fox Residential has 40 plus agents.
Right.
And you also transact. So
Right.
you're in this unique
I
position.
sort of sit on both sides.
Okay, this is great. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what do you see going on in the market right now, market-wide? And then we can go into kind of like on a firm-wide basis versus your own business.
Right.
So what's going on out there?
It's a very interesting market. Up until about a month ago, I would say that it's probably one of the slowest markets I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of them. But all of a sudden, the market activity has really picked up for the first time in maybe a year.
Right.
And showings that we weren't having on our exclusives before are now very prevalent. We're showing a lot of stuff a lot of times. And
Right.
that's really different than what we saw in December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in
and
terms
it's
of
really very heartening, actually.
we could use it.
Yeah.
It's been a long. It's been a
long, cold
a long
season.
cold winter.
Right.
Yeah. But these deals that you're talking about, are these new listings or are these older listings that are now starting to see the activity?
It's older listings seeing the activity.
New price?
For the most part.
Yeah, okay.
And when there's a price reduction, we always see a real serious jump in activity.
Okay,
and
so-
that's the key.
For sellers
Yeah.
that are out there that have been 4 months on the market at $2 million, refusing to lower their price because they
Right.
think once the buyers see my price cut, they're going to think weakness and they're going to start knowing.
Right?
And now all of a sudden you do a price cut and something changes and buyers come in. So what do sellers need to know right here about those price cuts? Don't be afraid of them.
Yeah, number one, you can't be afraid of a price cut. If you haven't sold your apartment, then it's not priced correctly.
Right.
Because anything that is priced correctly, there's a market for it, and the market will find it when the price is right.
Right.
And that's, I mean, my hardest job right now is convincing sellers to be realistic.
Right.
Well, it sounds so simple. Just price it at the market, and the market will do its job.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people have that reluctance to price it at the market because they feel like, well, I'm going to come down a little bit on negotiation, so I might as well try to price that in. But sometimes you go a little bit above where the market is, and at that point in this market, the interest seems to sort of dissipate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, when you cut the price, are you seeing some of the same buyers come back for a second look, or is this a fresh round of buyers?
Both. A fresh round plus the people who have already seen things are coming back for another look.
Right.
It's an odd combination of things going on. It should be the best market we've ever seen because the economy is pretty good right now.
Yeah.
And the interest rates are very low, and all of the parameters seem to be in favor of a good market.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah, we talk about this, and we think it's a policy-driven reset, and you had all these policy changes. You had the SALT deductions, you had the rent
Right.
regulations, you had the mansion tax, can't hide under LLCs, pied-à-terre tax thoughts of coming, strong U.S. dollar policy. I mean, we're just bang, 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 hammering off these policy changes that are affecting the market.
Yeah.
You're right. It's weird, right? We should be really strong right now. Let me ask you this. Do you see any difference between new development and resale?
I think that there has been a tendency for a lot of the resale buyers to head in the direction of the new developments. It's number one, it's a slam dunk. You walk in there and it's done for the most part. And a lot of apartments that are in these beautiful old pre-war buildings, and I'm really sort of an Upper East Side specialist, even though we do everything in our firm. My own special niche is the Upper East Side and Upper West Side, and these pre-war buildings where these glorious apartments are coming on the market that haven't been touched in 60 years are a tough sell unless they're priced correctly. And that's where it moves. I mean, it moves when it's priced correctly.
Right. Do you find buyers don't want to bid up for, they don't want estate sale condition properties? They don't want to do $1 million renovation?
There's a whole group of people out there that don't want to do it. And in a way, I don't blame them. But in another way, it's the only way to get exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Because you always make exceptions to things that for things that are already there and are okay but not perfect. And I think that when you renovate, and I say this in a personal way because we got renovated an apartment, I have exactly what I want. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's done a gut renovation myself, I know that it's incredibly time consuming. I did it in a co-op, so there's another layer of red tape, and so there's a certain allure to a new development punch list walkthrough where you go through and say, all right, I'll take this color of granite, I'll take this make of dishwasher, and everything's just sort of ready for you. Versus a 50% down co-op. You've got to close before you can begin anything, and then it's another year to 2 years before you're finished.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I got a theory on renovations. I think a lot of men in particular are afraid of renovations, especially big renovations. And you can tell me whether or not I'm crazy here, right? You can see this is going to go off the path a little bit. Because you got to pick the color of the backsplash. You got to pick the color. What kind of wood are you getting? What kind of paints are you going to get?
Every hinge, every fixture,
every faucet, every fixture, every light bulb. And let me tell you, every guy's sitting there and be like, oh yeah, the idea of having everything I want, that sounds awesome. And then they go to sleep and then they have a dream, and that dream is like a fight with their wife over every single element that's going to happen. And I came up with a solution to this problem, right?
Let your wife do it.
The answer is let your wife do it, and you get to change 2 things. And if you have a nice reasonable wife, you get to change 3 things. And if you have a very non-reasonable wife, you get to change 1 thing. So there's really a little bit of something for everybody in there.
Sounds like a perfect plan.
It's a win-win.
What could go wrong?
Nothing can go wrong. All right, let's get back to
the interesting thing is that when I walked into my apartment that we currently live in, and showed it to my husband for the first time, he said, "Oh, the beauty of this is that it doesn't need any work."
Yeah.
And I said, Right. No work.
Yeah.
Not much work, at least.
Yeah, exactly. Wait till you move in.
And then, a week after we closed, we started gutting the interior.
Yeah.
And exterior.
Everyone wants to make it their own. I always tell my buyers when I'm out there, just look at the bones. Look at the stuff you can't change, because ultimately you're going to make this property your own. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you see a perfect location with a perfect view, with a good configuration, a good size, but you hate the kitchen, or you hate the configuration because that wall's up over there, try to look past it.
So I have a question for you. Yes. How long do you think in this market a renovation will last? So if you come in and you put your finishing touches on it, and it's not crazy avocado or some funky color, but it's a neutral stainless steel. I mean, you can't go wrong. Yeah. How long does that last before it's sort of the value of it has dissipated?
Well, I think once you live in an apartment for 10 years, it probably is going to need renovation for most people, or at least partial renovation.
Yeah.
I've always thought that it's a good thing when you renovate to redo the wiring, because I think wiring is an iffy thing.
Especially in those old pre-war co-ops.
In the old pre-war co-ops. And I think wiring needs to be done every 10 to 15 years, or at least updated every 10 to 15 years. And, I mean, kitchens at my particular kitchen, I thought it needed updating after the first 5 years, but it really doesn't for other people. But it depends on the person.
That's a great question, John. I just want to say one thing to that question really quick. Don't forget that. You know what's interesting about that question? Some renovations will probably be timeless.
Yeah.
And other renovations will probably show its fad just kind of past, like in 7 years or 8 years.
Well, the question of timelessness, it's different for the seller than it is for the buyer.
Right.
So I'm curious, how do you have that conversation with the seller who's like, you know what, everyone loves this sort of, French Rococo style that I've done, and it's beautiful, but it's 35 years old and it's completely out of style. How do you have the conversation to say, you know what, someone's going to want to gut this place?
It's funny. I have exactly that situation now, and these are old customers. I sold it to them over 30 years ago, and at the time that they bought the apartment, they did nothing because it had just been redone, and it was very pretty, and it still is pretty, but it's 30 years old. And they keep saying to me, but the kitchen is perfect. I mean, all the appliances work, everything's in good shape, and nobody's going to want to redo that. They might want to put in new bathrooms or something, but in truth, all of the plumbing is going to need to be redone when they start replacing the 30-year-old kitchen, and all the baths are going to need to be redone, and the plumbing lines into the bath. All the electrical is going to they need central air conditioning today. I mean, everything is different.
That's how those dollars go way up. Right there.
I mean, how long does it take?
Permits.
between
Yeah.
getting board approval if it's a co-op and getting the permits from the city and getting the plans approved and all of that, I would say that in itself a minimum of 2 or 3 months.
Minimum.
Minimum.
If it's going fast.
Yeah, if it's going quickly.
Yeah.
And then once the work starts, most co-op buildings in particular give you maybe 3 or 4 months of work time, of noisy work time,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they start charging you on a daily basis for
Right, and these are things you don't realize as a
And these are
shopper.
ex-
These are things people don't know.
Yeah.
So this is great. Yeah. I
Yeah.
love
Like
it.
no one knows an expediter can cost you $2,000 to $3,000
Yeah.
just to simply file the plan so you can get actually done.
Yeah,
And think of
I remember needing a mechanical engineer in the middle of doing our plans. I needed a mechanical engineer to come in. Another layer of cost. I mean,
Right.
but you have to get comfortable with what it's going to cost
Yeah.
you, and you can't box it into one price
Yeah.
or one time frame.
Right.
Plus the
It
opportunity
really-
cost of living in another place while this apartment
Exactly.
is, very, very interesting.
So I understand why people want to buy in
Yeah.
new developments, and it's all well and good. But new developments also have their issues, and they're also more expensive.
Yeah.
for the most part.
Have you found, have you been negotiating on behalf of buyers for new developments recently?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The interesting, I went to see a new development yesterday, and the person in the sales office said to me, every time an apartment sells, we now, instead of raising the price, we're lowering the price for the next, we lower the price to what that one sold for.
Interesting.
And so they're definitely
They're marking it to
negotiating.
market.
I don't know how much off they're negotiating in that particular situation, but I know that where it was very difficult to negotiate sale prices in the past 2 years, it's now becoming easier.
And that negotiation, like, what is it? If you had to paint the picture for agents that don't do a lot of new development business, but are
Right.
they have a buyer that wants to buy new development, and they're like, I wish I did 30 of these, and I have some experience to pass on.
Yeah.
Like, what would you tell that? Are they negotiating on price and concession? And
Yeah,
if so,
sure.
like, where is that
Price concession,
approximate-
closing costs, everything is getting filtered into the mix here. And I
Okay.
think closing costs were always a negotiable item
Right.
in these developments. And now we're negotiating price, closing costs, and just about anything else that's up for
Right.
grabs.
I mean,
Yeah.
I still think that this is one of the better times to make a play for new development.
I think it's a
Yeah.
great time to buy, period. And
Yeah.
that is really the key. And the only thing, I mean, with my buyers, they are definitely coming in 20% under what the asking price is, because any
Straight across the board.
Straight
Doesn't
across the
matter
board.
if it's priced right.
even if
Yeah.
it's priced correctly. Now, I have to prove to them
Yeah.
that the pricing is good, but they're in their heads, they all think that market's down 20%, 25%, I'm going to bid 20%.
Right. If a buyer came to you and said, "Where's the best value in Manhattan or Brooklyn today?" What sort of
Yeah.
areas would you suggest? Just pure value.
Pre-war co-ops,
Pre-war co-ops.
yeah,
In the Upper East.
and Upper West.
Upper West, there's nothing there. There's nothing good there.
Well,
I mean, like, there's barely any inventory.
there's a lot of inventory on Central Park West.
On Central Park West?
Yeah.
Okay. Versus the Upper East Side? The Upper East Side has a multiple of what the Upper West Side has, though, right?
Well, it's bigger to begin with.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's bigger, but there's plenty of product both ways, both sides,
Yeah,
both sides of the park.
The luxury sector has got hit more than the lower end markets. I mean, the
but
1 million.
but it's all trickled down
But
to
do you
the
feel like
lower
it's
end now.
do you feel
Same
like
thing.
do you feel like the reason that the Upper West Side and Upper East Side co-ops, pre-war co-ops, are such a value now is because the buyers' tastes and preferences have shifted to other neighborhoods and more amenity-rich buildings in general?
The whole downtown sector has opened up to younger people, and
Yeah.
younger people who are the ones that are buying the family apartments now. Excuse me.
That's okay.
So that whole the downtown market's still pretty strong. The prices
Yeah.
are pretty good, but what's happened here is that the kids that grew up on the Upper East and Upper West Side don't want to live there anymore. They
Yeah.
want to go downtown, so they
Yeah.
want to bring their kids up down
Yeah.
there, and they'll drag their kids up to school here or whatever. But
Right.
it's just the whole thing. And the other thing is that co-op boards are a real problem now, and the scrutiny that buyers have to go through in order to please a co-op board and be acceptable, it's really, I think, egregious.
I mean, I was kind of hoping that over decades. I mean, we've been in this market now. I've been following New York for for 20 plus years. I was hoping that now as we get into a new decade that a younger generation is going to start occupying those co-op boards from 25 years ago, you know, and the policies might get a little more liberal, a little more loose, a little more,
If there's one policy they could change, what would it be? Just to attract more buyers, or expand the buyer pool, I should say. Is it a down payment issue mainly, or is it?
I think that number one, the bulk of the Upper East and Upper West Side co-ops require 50% in cash. That's egregious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Especially now, a
And
lot
the
of
West.
this compensation is in equity.
Yeah, yeah. I represent.
Or the purchase price on liquid assets.
Yeah,
You know?
the liquid assets needed to buy the total combination of income and liquid assets.
And they're looking for a certain buyer.
And the scrutiny that goes through it. And what's happened is that co-op boards who turn down buyers are single-handedly driving down the prices in their buildings.
So even though they're trying to hold up the prices, they're
They,
in actuality hurting the price.
when I had a situation recently where I had a board turned down. I don't usually have board turn downs because I know. But I had a board turned down for somebody. I have absolutely no idea why it happened. And the buyer was paying a certain price.
Right.
The next buyer we had that we did ultimately sell it to paid 20% less.
Wow.
Right. Well, you're increasing days on market.
Yep.
And then someone also sees, well, when the
Wow.
contractor came out of contract, the seller's probably desperate, so
Yeah.
let me, it's
Hey,
right
it
for a
worked.
lowball, basically.
Yeah, that was not in the best interest
Yeah.
of the shareholder.
It's not the whole concept of the board approval process. It is supposed to be in the best interest of the tenant shareholders.
Yeah.
But in essence, what's happening is they're driving away buyers
Yeah.
in the probably the most interesting market in the city.
I mean, they
That's
got
a
a
great
choice.
point.
They got a choice.
Yeah.
They could change it. It's up to them. You know, they
It
have
really
they have
is up to
policies
them.
that they could change. This is, you know, some buildings do it and they're okay.
And the
You know?
interesting thing is that the younger crowd that's coming on the boards now are just as bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would think that they would want everyone's value of the apartment to go up higher. And if the apartment's more marketable to a larger pool of buyers that can
Right.
now get in, technically your price should
Right.
be more valuable.
But it's one of these things where short-term gains affect long-term outcomes. So the short-term gain of preventing a low price actually enables a long-term.
And this happened in
detriment.
2009.
Yeah.
In 2009, when the credit
Yeah.
crisis happened, I had a sell side turned down also, and it was completely price. Had nothing to do with anything but the price. They did not like the price. I had to get a different price. Luckily, I got a higher price, and my seller we got bailed out.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
Not in your case, but anyway, listen, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just
Before,
gonna-
before we get
Okay.
before we get to the end, I just want to. You're a veteran. What's one
Thank you.
thing? What's one thing that you wish someone had told you on day one that you do now that's just great? I wish you'd been. You wish you'd been doing
Like a
this
new
from-
agent?
Yeah. Like what's something you wish you'd been doing from the first day you started?
You know, the business is so different now than when I started.
Right.
I mean, when I started, we were canvassing buildings and doormen to get listings. It was great.
Fax machines.
Yeah. Before fax machine. Anyway, what would I say? I don't know.
He's putting you on the
really
spot
have to
with
think.
that
I am putting you on the spot a little
You're
bit,
putting
yeah.
me on the spot. I would have to think about that because there's so many different things that I would have liked to have known.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is that if a person wants to come into the market as a broker, as an agent, they need to dive in, and they cannot sit here and wait for things to drop in their lap.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
And the only way that brokers are successful in this career is they have to go out and find their customers, find their sellers, find their buyers, and they have to work their contacts.
Yeah.
And I think people really don't understand the concept of that.
Yeah, I think when you compare teams like, you know, the Ryan Serhant team and to like a regular agent that's trying to grow their business, you know, the Serhant team's got God knows how many people on it now, but any team, right, has God knows how many people, and it's like a machine. It's like a greased machine, and
Yeah.
everyone is working every hour of the
Yeah.
day, and there's accountability for everyone, and everyone has a job to do. Whereas a lot of new agents are sitting there saying, well, what the hell am I supposed to be doing now?
Well, even
Yeah.
that. So
But I
it-
think it's
yeah.
important to know to be completely well-rounded in this business. See, I don't necessarily agree with that team theory because I think in order to be a really good broker, you need to know everything. You need to know every aspect of putting together a board package. You need to know the stock of what's out there to
Right.
show your
Product
clients
knowledge,
the
yeah.
product. You need to know the comps. You need to know everything in order to be a really good broker. Then you can go into your teams and specialize.
I totally agree with that.
Totally
Yeah,
agree.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, so we're getting towards the end here. If you had to give some final thoughts, I mean, and before I get into that, actually, you're looking at this office of 40. I asked about your personal, but when you look at the office of 40
Right.
and you look at January versus December, November,
Right.
how are we doing better? Are we doing worse? Just real quick,
Oh,
macro.
definitely.
Okay,
doing
so you're
better.
seeing-
Actually, we had a better 2019 than we had 2018.
That's great.
Yeah. So I look at things sort of on a year-to-year basis. I'm not a big financial person. I should be, but I'm not. But we're doing. Yeah, this year's great.
This year's doing good.
Yeah, this year's good so far.
Okay, that's good. I just want to get that high
But
level.
it's only February.
I know it's too early to tell,
Yeah.
but this is the active season, and usually,
Yeah.
this February, leads to March.
This I think that this spring season is going to be our season this year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're facing a lot of headwinds, though. We have some macroeconomic headwinds. We've got the
Yeah.
virus in China. That's
Yeah.
luckily not
The
here
election.
yet. The election. I mean, there's a lot of
There's a lot of stuff.
a lot of
going on.
reason for buyers to pause.
But we've been down and out
Yeah.
for so long, and maybe buyers are saying, you know what, Manhattan's on sale. It's been on sale, and I'm going to take a play at it.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think. Number one, sellers are getting it and they're reducing their prices, and number two, buyers are saying, you know what, I'm not going to know when the bottom of the market is here. The bottom of the market's going to come, and I could miss it.
I'm ending it right there. I don't want to hear anything else because I'm not going to top that. This is Noah and John. We are from Urban Digs. We're talking Manhattan. We got Barbara Fox here. Thank you so much. We'll
Thank
catch you next time.
Right.